What if 10 million people decide to join the Libertarian Party in the next 3 years? What's the plan?
Mm-hmm.
What is the plan? And I think that is what, when Matt talks about that, people get pissed because I think they believe that if 10 million people became libertarians, Ancapistan would just like magically appear. Well, what's the plan? I mean, when you say, okay, well, maybe we take over a town. I wrote an article on how do you take over your local town. You look for a local town where the executive, the mayor, has all the power, can fire the sheriff, can fire everybody. You get elected anyway by hook or by crook, and then you fire everybody and you bring everybody in who's libertarian, and then you just start peeling things away. I was like, okay, I just wrote that one day because I'm like, I don't know that anyone's written anything like this recently. And the response I got was, well, that violates the non-aggression principle. Okay, so if anything you do politically violates the non-aggression principle, what is the path forward? And that's why I naturally gravitate towards people like Jason, who is talking about building and talking about building what's next and things outside of the system. But I also gravitate towards the Hoppians who are like, well, all politics is local. If you're going to do anything local, you have to be political locally. And that is just, I mean, maybe that won't work, but it may buy some time for liberty in the meantime. I mean, something that to keep people out of jail, to keep our people from, worst case scenario, being lined up against a wall by a bunch of people who think that anyone who doesn't get the vaccine wants to kill them. I mean, it's like, what is the plan? Yeah. If you get 10 million people to believe what you believe.
Just real quick, Jason, just thinking this as Pete's talking, him and I have been in groupings, it's being termed as post-libertarians, and Matt Erickson's involved in some of this discussion as well. And boy, we have gotten a shitload of hate directed our way, to say the least, and by some friends, to be quite honest. And it's as I'm looking at you, Jason, and hearing Pete talk, it hits me like I feel sometimes like Jason was way ahead of us on all of this stuff, on getting out of this like silly bubble and discussing abstract ideas and living it in our mind. And meanwhile, you've been building and building, because I do know at first when you did this transition, you probably took a lot of slings and arrows your direction. And
from me, probably.
And lost.
Well, yeah, for a lot of people. I don't listen. The thing about me is that, like, I've been online for a lot of years in business, and I don't know that stuff rolls off my back, and I don't bear any grudges to anybody, and that's just always the way I've been since the beginning. I'm not a hater, but it's. This is what I will say is that I don't think anybody who looks at the Libertarian Party today. Well, first, let me address what you said, Pete, because I think what you said was powerful. Like all politics is local. But I think that if anything, the Free State Project and some of the other things we've seen locally is that really the best you're going to be able to do, even locally, is to tinker around the edges. You might be able to change a little bit here, change it a little bit there, but there's no evidence at all that the philosophy that we espouse has any sort of like really gripping, has any teeth to it, that you could make any real gigantic lasting change to a state or to a city. And if anybody who looks at the Libertarian Party leadership right now, anybody who says that those guys won't be as big a tyrants as the people we have in now if you elect libertarian politicians is kidding themselves. They're absolutely, they're no different than who we have now. They're all politically motivated, and as you said, what are you going to do? The most you're going to be able to do is now violate your own principles in an attempt to build the sort of world that you want to build. And so I thank you for saying that too, by the way, Buck. I feel like I've been a little bit ahead of this, and all I can do is just follow what I think is right. And if people don't think it's a good idea or they think I'm stupid, I'm not knocking anybody, by the way, but I can tell you right now that I don't think most libertarians really want liberty. I really don't. And I mean, what I mean by that is liberty requires personal responsibility and risk, two things that most people are not willing to take. They'll sit around and complain. They'll sit around and try and one up each other and be each other's intellectual and moral superiors. But if you ask them to actually get out there and take some personal responsibility to change their own lives, most of them will turn their nose up at that, and they'll come up with 1,000 different excuses why. And I think at the end of the day, what they're really saying is, you know, if I just point the blame at somebody else, if I just point it at government or my own political party or something else, then I absolve myself of the responsibility of taking personal responsibility for where I am and my status in life.